Hello students, welcome to another session of English Literature. I sincerely hope that you are finding the videos helpful and that you are getting down to some serious studies at home itself. As we have discussed earlier, we don't know when schools will reopen, so utilize all this time to listen to the videos again and again and let the words sink into your mind. Today I have taken up the poem The Cold Within by James Patrick Kinney. Now James Patrick Kinney was an Irish-American poet. He had to undergo a lot of hardships in his life and he also dropped out of school, but that did not stop him from studying. Okay, he was a self-educated man, and at the same time he wrote poems. Perhaps, this was the best expression to his own emotions that he could put in words. Now, during the 60s when this poem was written, Kinney saw around him a lot of strife in America. That was a period when there was this African American civil rights movement. We call it the civil rights movement. Now, you have studied in civics about the Constitution. The Constitution of a nation gives certain rights to its citizens. Now, we are supposed to follow those and treat each other as per the rights given by the Constitution. But in America, there was a lot of discrimination between whites and blacks. There was a lot of ill treatment of people. So James also used to observe all this and he used to get very outraged, very angry that why people are doing this. And he put all his anger, his emotions in his writings, and he wrote this poem. But this poem, wherever he showed it, nobody was ready to publish it because they felt it was too controversial. He's speaking about issues, which could perhaps bring in more fights among the people. So it was never published at that time. However, much later after his death, the poem was published and Kinney was given his due acclaim for this work. By that time, of course, he was not alive to see this. So this is a brief about his life as written over here. And as I have mentioned in the slide also, it was much after his death that he received his acclaim for the poem. Now we shall do the poem in detail. Now before we do the poem in detail, let's understand the discriminatory part again, because this poem is going to bring in a lot of issues, social issues and maybe petty issues where people just indulge in some kind of attitude towards others, and out of that attitude something happens. In the poem we shall see that people hold prejudices out of their narrow thinking on petty issues, maybe they behave very strangely with others. Let's have a look at the poem. So I have tried to give you one side poem and one side the word meanings. So even if you are doing some self-study, you will be able to understand the poem. Now you will notice we have the text written on one side and the meanings written on one side. The meanings are here for you to understand better. When you are doing the poem again and again on your own, maybe you can pause, at slides and check out the word meanings. Now let's see the poem. 6 humans trapped by happenstance in bleak and bitter cold. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story is told. Immediately, the poet takes us to a very desolate place. Isolated, barren perhaps, cold, bleak, and somehow the destiny of these 6 humans brought them all together in this place which is bleak and bitter. It's cold. He refers to 6 humans. He did not say 6 people, 6 persons, 6 men or 6 women. He wanted to make his readers understand that there were 6 humans perhaps belonging to 6 different types of categories divided by their own minds, representing some representation in their own mind. So here we have 6 humans. They have come to a place by happenstance, just by chance. Or rather, if you look at it the other way, or rather, if we look at it from the other point, happenstance, maybe their destiny, their chance was that they had to be here at that time together, right? So these people are trapped here. Trapped. They have not come willingly. It is a situation which they don't like. They are trapped. Each one possessed a stick of wood, or so the story is told. Now they all had a log of wood, a stick of wood, according to the details of the story, which the poet must have also heard sometime from his parents, his grandparents, or from people around him. That means these happenings which he is going to narrate in the poem perhaps were not one incident. These things must have happened in America, every day, where people used to hate each other for no reasons. They had their own reasons. Their dying fire in need of logs. The first man held his back, for of the faces round the fire he noticed one was black. Before I explain this stanza, please note the use of preposition his and he. Now in the Treasure Trove book, it has been mentioned as her and she. Fine. Well, but in some sites in Google, it has been mentioned as his and he. So let's, for the time being, take it to be a male person. However, if such a question does arise in your question paper in the examination, you could write a note, okay, that the book says it's a female. However, other sources of the Google say it was a man. So, their dying fire in need of logs, the first man held his back, for of the faces round the fire he noticed one was black. Now there was a fire they found in this desolate and bleak place. That was something really good that happened to them, that there was a fire. But this fire was dying. And when a fire dies and it is cold around, what would we do? We would kindle the fire. We would put in some logs and make the fire big so that it will protect us from the cold. These people should have also done the same. They were holding logs. Okay? But we notice that the first man, perhaps in the act of putting his log in the fire, suddenly held his back. Okay? Because this person noticed the others around him, and one person caught his attention. That was black. An African by origin. And I have told you that was a time there was a lot of strife between the Africans and the Americans, the blacks and the whites. So the person did not put the log of wood in the fire. The fire is dying. We come to the third stanza. The next man, looking across the way, saw one not of his church, and couldn't bring himself to give the fire his stick of birch. The next man also behaved in a very strange manner. He could have put his log into the fire, but he noticed one man among the group did not follow his own religion. He was not out of his church. He did not go to the same church as he. Okay? Or he did not follow the same class of, even Christians have different classes, We have the Catholics and the Protestants. And the Catholics don't agree with the Protestants, and Protestants don't agree with the Catholics. It could be a case of that, or it could be a case of different religion altogether. So we notice that this man does not go to his church. He goes to some different institute, okay, religious institute. So he held back his birch. Birch is a type of tree, the name of a tree. Now this log that he was holding is a birch wood log. So he did not put it in the fire. He also kept his own distance from all this. So he also did not put his log of wood into the fire. Why? Because he felt a difference, and that difference for him was not easy to overcome. The third man sat in tattered clothes. He gave his coat a hitch. Why should his log be put to use to warm the idle rich? There is a third man. His clothes are all tattered, which shows that he is poor. Now it is cold all around. The fire is dying, and he tries to put his coat closer to his body so that he could feel a little warm. Look at the irony. His clothes are tattered. There may be holes in the coat. And yet he's trying to cover himself. So that's the irony, that though he wants the coat to give him some warmth, the coat perhaps is not going to give him that warmth. So he first put his coat a little tighter around himself and thought, why should he give his log of wood to the fire? Because he noticed that there was a rich man somewhere sitting in the group. So he did not want to benefit the rich and in any case. So he did not want to do any favor to the rich, because he considers the rich to be idle. Because the rich have so much money, they are so arrogant, they feel that they are superior, and they have a lot of money to give to others to get their work done. So he finds that the rich people are idle people, they are lazy people. He doesn't want to help. So he did not put his own log of wood also into the fire, least realizing that if the fire will burn, it will help him also to feel warm. But he doesn't do it. Now in the next stanza we will see this rich man, which this poor man was observing. The rich man just sat back and thought of the wealth he had in store and how to keep what he had earned from the lazy, shiftless poor. Now this rich man also has his own pattern of thought, right? He's just thinking about all that he has earned in life, or the wealth and the money that he has. Perhaps he was carrying his money with him and he wanted to protect and not show it to the poor man. So he's thinking how to protect whatever he has in store, whatever he has collected or earned from this poor man. And why should he share anything with this poor man? Because according to him, the poor are lazy, shiftless. They don't do work. They don't want to work much. So the feeling is the same. The poor man thinks the rich man is lazy. The rich man thinks the poor man is lazy. Right? So according to the rich man, this poor man, all the class of the poor people are lazy people. They are shiftless. They have no goal, no aim, no ambition. They don't want to work hard. They don't want to rise in life. They are happy where they are, in their poverty. So he doesn't want to help the poor at all. And he also does not put his log of wood into the fire. We have already seen the 4 people here. Now we will be introduced to the 5th person. The black man's face bespoke revenge as a fire passed from his side, for all he saw in his stick of wood was a chance to spite the white. Now this black man who was observed by the first person, the white person, this black man also looks at the white man, and now he feels the time has come that he wants to take his revenge. He hates him. He hates the white. So it's all over his face. Bespoke revenge. The revenge is clear on his face. He does not want to help this white man at all, and so he did not put his log of wood into the fire, because he wants to spite the rich. He wants to show his hatred to the rich, and that is why he will not put his log into the fire. He is risking his own life, but he is happy with that. The ego, he is happy with that. That it's okay. If he dies, it's fine. If I die in between, okay. He feels okay if he can bring some harm to the Englishman. The last man of this forlorn group did not, except for gain, giving only to those who gave, was how he played the game. There is this last person of the group, of the 6 who were there. And what is the type of person he is before he's the 6th person of the group. And look at the use of the word forlorn. Forlorn group. It's a group of people. There are 6 people and yet they are forlorn. They are all lonely. They are all sad, desolate, helpless, miserable. Did not accept for gain. Now this man is a very greedy person. Very stingy, an opportunist. He wants to look for some profit, some gain in every situation. he will not put his log into the fire because he's trying to analyze what will be his profit if he does it. Because he is the kind of person who will not do anything unless he receives some gain. It's like a barter. You give, you take. It's like that with him. So unless he receives something, he will not give anything. So he also does not put the log into the fire. This is how he played the game. Look at the irony. That life is considered to be a game. This man feels that life is a game and he has to play it very, very intelligently to earn a lot of profits. Their logs held tight in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without, they died from the cold within. And so, the 6 men, having resources with them, the sticks, which could bring the fire to life and keep them warm during the night, did nothing of this kind. In fact, they just held back the sticks they had. So naturally, death that looms, over everybody, found these 6 men to be easy victims. Death came and laid its cold hands on these people, and they all died in the cold. So here, the poet speaks of death as if the death is some kind of a human being. It's come with its cold hands and has gripped these people in its grip, and these people have died. And they are still holding the log of wood in their hand, which they should have put into the fire. This was a case of personification of the death. They didn't die from the cold without, they died from the cold within. Even though it was a cold night and everywhere it was cold, but they had a fire. If they were sensible, they could have changed their destiny. They could have changed everything and come out of it alive in the morning. But they didn't do it. So it was not the cold. They cannot blame the cold outside for their death, because they died from the cold within. Their hearts were cold. They felt nothing for each other. They did not want to acknowledge each other as fellow human beings. They kept their own differences. I am this, I am this, I am this. They didn't want to share anything with each other. So that is why they died, because their hearts were cold. It was cold within. And so they committed human sin. We are human beings. We are the superior beings. And we are, images of God. Because God made us in His own image. So we are to have a lot of good virtues in us. Compassion, love, affection, fellow feeling, brotherhood. But there was nothing of this kind. But there was nothing of this kind in these 6 men, in these 6 humans. And that became the cause of their death. So this was an explanation of the poem. Let's look at the various aspects of the poem which will help you to study and answer the questions later. As mentioned earlier in my previous lecture, every poem has a theme, or rather every piece of literature, be it prose or poem or drama, has themes. This poem also has various themes. Human greed and jealousy, discrimination and prejudice, selfishness and intolerance, hatred and revenge. Every person had some feeling or the other, had some reason or the other, and they were so discriminatory in their attitudes that they did not help each other. So these are the various themes of the poem. Now comes the form, structure and rhyme. Form. It is a lyrical narrative poem set in the form of a parable. It's a lyrical poem having song-like appeal. Fine. Narrative poem. It is like a story that is being told. Narrative in the form of a narration. And it is a parable. A parable is a story which gives to its readers some kind of a message. Generally, there are lots of parables in the Bible. So, if people have to be taught something, some virtue, some value of life, there will be a story attached to it of something else totally different, and out of the story one has to understand the message behind the story. So that is a parable. Now James perhaps was a very staunch Christian himself, and he believed in Christian values, the right values, and he wanted people to understand that all these are small issues. There is a much larger meaning to life. We are human beings, and he wanted them to understand this, that together, and he wanted them to understand this, that if they come together without differences, there will be so much happiness and progress in the entire universe or in the entire world. It has 8 quatrains and each consists of 4 lines. The entire poem has 8 stanzas and every stanza has 4 lines. A 4-line stanza is called a quatrain. The rhyming scheme is A, B, C, B. I told you previously also, we have to look at the last sound of every line to understand the rhyming pattern. The first sound becomes A, the second B, the third C, and if a sound is repeated, we repeat the alphabet. So here we have A, B, C, B, happenstance, A sound, cold, B sound, wood, C sound, told, told, cold, cold, told. Okay? So there's a rhyme there. So B sound is repeated. So overall it is A, B, C, B. The poet uses various techniques to make his poem come alive with his thoughts and emotions. This poem also has a lot of such devices which are called poetic devices. Let's have a look at them. Allegory. It is a narrative in which the poet uses his characters, plays, things or events to deliver a broader message to the readers about real life issues. Allegory. Because it's a parable, he has to make the people understand his message, but he can't tell them directly that you are this, you are this, you are this, you did this wrong, and so this is right or wrong, let's do this. He can't do that. So he uses some symbols to teach his lesson. Each one possesses a stick of wood representing a person's abilities and resources. A stick of wood perhaps is his ability, his resources, what he could do, what he could contribute. In this case, each of them could contribute the wood to the fire to make it big. Okay, so every person is endowed with some gifts and resources. Here, the resources are the wood. Fire represents common good. The fire that is burning, it's dying, but meaning the human values are dying. The fire is representing the human values, and these human values are going down, dying day by day because people are not understanding. So through this dying fire and the sticks, he wants to convey the meaning that if you don't put wood, fire will die. Put wood, make the fire alive. Okay, so work together and make your life better. Personification, to attribute human-like qualities to non-human things. Death still hands. I told you in the explanation that death is mentioned as some human with cold hands which has come to take their life away. So that's personification. Alliteration, repetition of consonant sounds. In the first stanza we have bleak and bitter. The sound b, b. Repetition of consonant sound. It adds up to the music, the tone, and also it adds up to the extremeness, the cold. How was the cold? Bleak and bitter. So more degree added to it. It was very cold. Visual imagery, that which the reader can experience as seeing. There are a lot of visual imageries in the poem. If you look at the entire poem, it's full of visuals which you can actually see in your eyes when you read the poem. 6 men, 6 humans trapped, fire, logs of wood in their hands, one held back, bespoke revenge, the dying fire. So these are various areas where he's trying to show, and he gives his coat a hitch. You can feel that he is actually moving his hands to bring his coat together. The one person looks at another person and understands the difference through looks or through the body color, the skin color. Every person looks at another person and notices some kind of difference. Maybe it is the color of skin, maybe it is the clothes, okay, or maybe he understands he's from a different religion. So they notice the differences. Metonymy, to substitute the thing, person, place referred to with another word that can describe it. Saw one not of his church. Metonymy is to use one word to describe something else, which generally will have the quality of this that you are describing. So he wants to speak of religion, not one of his church, meaning not one of his own religion. So church here describes what? The Christian religion. So it is a case of metonymy. Oxymoron, two opposing words put together. This is a very interesting device and says two different things in two words. Okay? A very interesting device. Oxymoron, when two opposites are placed together. Now here we have forlorn group. It's a group of people, but they are forlorn, they are lonely. So how can a group, being together, feel lonely? So that is the condition of the world. There are people everywhere, but there are differences. One person does not agree with the other. They don't see eye to eye with each other. They don't understand each other. So this is how they are different. Forlorn group, two different opposite words put together. Symbolism, dying fire denotes declining human warmth and compassion. As we just saw in allegory, that he is using certain symbols to depict his parable or to say his message. The dying fire is a symbol of the declining human warmth and compassion. The fire is the human qualities, but the dying fire is a symbolism that the fire is dying. Through the dying fire, he is showing the things around him, the grim nature of the world around him. Irony, an unusual or unexpected part of a situation, an unexpected outcome despite favorable chance. Their logs held tight in death still hands. Irony, what was expected, what happened. There were 6 human beings brought together by destiny. If they had some sense, they could have used this sense and changed their destiny. But that was not the case. They had to die. So that is the irony, that they had the word, they could have done something, but they died. That's the irony of the situation they were placed in. This is just a summing up. We have the fire, and around the fire, the 6 men with different kind of setbacks in their life. We have the fire in between, and around the fire are the 6 men with some kind of limiting thought in their mind. Prejudice, discrimination, greed, selfishness, stinginess, hatred, revenge. These are the feelings that they have. And there is a dying fire. The fire is dying because all these men are not giving up what they have to keep the fire alive. All men die due to the cold within. They could have kept the fire alive. So this was a nutshell of the poem. They could have kept the fire alive, but they did not do so. The poem moves at a very fast pace. We see one man, second man, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and death. So it shows that everything is happening very fast and things are slipping out of our hands. Life is slipping away. We are losing on our days in life. Life is getting shorter for us. We are not realizing this. And we are indulging in petty quarrels, petty issues. Now, because it is a parable, there are some messages which the poet wants his readers to understand. Strength lies in unity. To live peacefully, allow others to live peacefully, respect differences, do not waste precious time indulging in petty issues, keep humanity first. Let's understand, human life is very precious. Let's understand humanity, keeping it first. Forget about our differences of country, race, caste, color, economic status, rich, poor, Let's all forget this and understand strength lies in unity. If we are together, we can work a lot. Increase the value of our life. We can bring more meaning to life. We can make more progress. And we can be happy. We can make others also happy. I do hope, children, that you follow my lessons. In case you have any comment, you can go to the description box and leave a comment so that I could see it and we could get back perhaps to you. Like it, subscribe it, and press the bell icon. You can also share with your friends. Thank you.